There's one number in this video that's going to make you stop and check your own bank account halfway through. And by the end, you'll understand why almost nobody catches the mistake that's quietly draining their money until it's already cost them thousands. I'm going to show you exactly how it happens. Through 3 real situations. A 24-year-old who thinks she's finally making good money, until one text message exposes how little of it she actually has. A couple whose fight over $700 almost breaks them, until they realize the fight was never about the money at all. And a retired couple who discover, at the worst possible moment, that the biggest threat to their savings isn't the economy. It's something they never once thought to plan for. If you only watch one of these stories, you'll miss the part that changes how the other 2 make sense. So stick around, because the version of this that catches most people off guard doesn't show up until near the end. Here's a strange fact. The average person will make more decisions about money before 9 a.m. than they will about almost anything else all day. Coffee here or at home? Check the balance or don't. Open that notification or leave it sitting there unread like a text you're avoiding. And by the time most people figure out how to actually get money right, they've usually already lived through the years where getting it wrong cost them the most. Let's start with the paycheck that was supposed to feel like freedom. The math that doesn't add up. Maya is 24. She's sitting at her kitchen table at 11 at night, laptop open, staring at a screen that should be making her feel like an adult, and is instead making her feel like she's failing at being one. Rent is due Friday. Her phone bill lands Tuesday. And somehow, through no planning of her own, her student loan payment hits the exact same week as both. She's making more money than she did a year ago, and somehow she has less breathing room than ever. That's not a coincidence, and it's not just her. It's a pattern with a name, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Then her phone buzzes. Her friend Jordan. Bree's bachelorette is in Cancun in March, like $900 all in. You in? Maya opens her banking app. $612 in checking, $84 in savings. $900 isn't a stretch for her. It's a number that doesn't exist in her account at all. Here's what almost nobody says out loud about being in your 20s. It was never the rent that was going to break you. It was the invitations, the weddings, the trips, the group dinners where splitting the bill evenly means the person who ordered water pays for someone else's second bottle of wine. Saying yes feels like being a good friend. Saying no feels like confessing something humiliating. I can't afford this. Maya's roommate, Priya, walks in and reads the situation on her face before Maya even says a word. When Maya explains the invite, Priya just says, "Yeah, I got that text too. I'm not going." No hesitation. And when Maya asks if that doesn't sting, missing out like that, Priya says something that's stuck with me for years. Every single time, but missing rent stings a lot more, and it lasts a lot longer. A year earlier, Priya had made herself one rule. Every dollar has a job before it lands in her account. Rent, food, loan payment. Then, before anything else, $100 into savings, no exceptions. If she says yes to Cancun, something else stops getting paid. So the answer is no, not out of restriction, out of arithmetic. There's a term for the thing that quietly wrecks people at this age, and it's not overspending on anything dramatic. It's called lifestyle inflation, and it doesn't look like one bad decision. It looks like a $6 coffee, a $14 delivery fee, a subscription you forgot existed, a ride share because it was raining. Every single one of those is defensible on its own. That's exactly why it works. Nobody goes broke from one purchase. They go broke from 20 purchases that each felt too small to matter. So Priya draws something on a napkin that changes how Maya sees every paycheck from here on out. 3 categories: needs, rent, food, minimum payments, transportation. For someone Maya's age, this bucket eats almost everything, and that's normal, not a personal failure. Then wants. This is where Cancun lives, where the coffee out habit lives. And then the one bucket almost everyone skips entirely: future you, savings, even $10, even $5, and future you gets paid first. Not last, not whatever's left over, because there is never anything left over. That's not bad luck. That's not a coincidence. Spending expands to fill whatever space you leave it. Every single time. That night, Maya texts Jordan back. Can't do Cancun this time, trying to actually build savings this year. Dinner's on me when Bree's back, promise. It reads like a small, slightly awkward text. It's actually the single most important financial skill anyone can learn, and it has nothing to do with spreadsheets. It's the ability to disappoint someone in the moment, on purpose, for a version of yourself she hasn't even met yet. Here's the part that matters most, though. The habits Maya builds right now at 24 in a decision that feels this small. They're the exact same habits that determine whether her 30s feel like relief or like déjà vu. Because the next chapter of this story isn't about being alone with a spreadsheet anymore. It's about what happens when 2 people, each carrying their own version of Maya's math, merge their entire financial lives into one account, and discover that love does not automatically make 2 spending philosophies compatible. The fight that wasn't about the money. Every long-married couple argues about money. That part isn't surprising. What's surprising is how rarely the fight is actually about the number. David and Rena are in their mid-30s, sitting on opposite ends of the couch, bills and a laptop between them. Rena isn't yelling. She's just tired. I'm not trying to start anything, she says. I just want to understand where the $700 went. David fumbles through an explanation, the guy's golf trip, then new clubs, then Rena cuts him off. We've been ignoring the kitchen faucet leak for 2 months, David. He goes quiet. I know, he says. Neither of them is wrong here, and that's exactly what makes this so hard to fix. They grew up in 2 completely different relationships with money, and neither of them ever noticed it until it started causing damage. Rena's father lost his job when she was 10. She remembers her mother recalculating the grocery list in a parking lot before they even walked into the store. To Rena, money is the thing that keeps the floor from disappearing. David's father worked constantly, almost never took a day off, and had a heart attack at 53. To David, somewhere underneath the surface, money became proof that tomorrow isn't promised, so you don't wait to enjoy today. Neither belief is a character flaw. Both of them are completely reasonable responses to real fear. But put 2 unexamined childhood beliefs into a single joint checking account, and eventually, something has to give. A financial counselor named Linda asks them a question most couples never think to ask each other. Growing up, what did money actually feel like in your house? Not the polished answer, the real one. And when they answer honestly for the first time in years, they're not fighting each other. They're finally looking at the same problem from the same side. Here's the truth almost nobody tells you before you combine your life with someone else's. You're never actually fighting about the money. You're fighting about what the money represents. Security versus enjoyment. Control versus trust. the next 10 years versus this exact Saturday. Until a couple names what they're actually protecting, the argument about golf clubs will keep happening forever, dressed up as a different purchase every time. Linda's fix isn't complicated, and that's what makes it work. Not one joint account, not two totally separate ones. 3. A shared account for the household. Rent, bills, groceries, agreed-upon savings goals, and one small personal account each, with zero explanation required. Rena jokes that this means she stops auditing his golf trips. Linda tells her exactly, and he stops needing her permission to have a hobby. But how much goes where? That's decided together, out loud, on a calm afternoon, never in the middle of a fight about a faucet. This kind of scheduled, low-stakes check-in has a name. Financial therapists call it a money date. No blame, no ambush, just two people looking at numbers the way they'd look at a shared calendar. Months later, David and Rena sit at that same kitchen table with tea instead of tension. Joint account covers the mortgage, utilities, groceries, school fees, and $300 into savings before anything else moves. $200 each into personal accounts. No questions asked. David grins. So the clubs come out of mine, Rena nods. The clubs come out of yours. When he mentions the shoes she bought last week, she says, came out of mine, which you don't get to see. He laughs. Fair enough. It's a small scene, tea, a little teasing. But underneath it is months of work to stop treating money like a loyalty test and start treating it like a shared project with room for both of their histories. But there's a version of this couple's story that no financial planner can fully prepare anyone for. And it arrives the moment a baby monitor starts crackling in the background. A year later, David and Rena are staring at a number that hits differently than anything before it. Childcare costs $1,400 a month. That's almost my entire take-home some months, David admits. This is happening in more homes than you'd think. Childcare costs rising faster than paychecks, forcing families into decisions no spreadsheet can make painless. One parent stepping back from work, grandparents stepping in, or simply less of everything else. So there's enough for the one thing that matters most. David finally asks carefully, "What if we ask your mom? Just 2 days a week?" Rena sits with it for a long moment. "I don't love asking," she says, "but I love drowning even less." There's no universal right answer here. It's the same lesson Maya learned alone in her apartment, just scaled up to 2 adults and a nursery. The conversations get easier not when the numbers get bigger, but when 2 people stop hiding from each other and start solving it side by side. But the questions David and Rena are wrestling with right now are still, in a strange way, the easy version. There's a version of this that comes decades later, when the question isn't, how do we build this anymore? It's, did we build enough, and will it actually hold? The fear that has nothing to do with running out of money. Here's what nobody tells you about growing older. The scariest financial fear isn't the number in the account. It's something quieter, and it usually shows up at a kitchen table, late at night, when someone in their 60s finally does math they've avoided for years. Mr. and Mrs. Tan are sitting exactly there, bank statements, a pension letter, a calculator between them. Mrs. Tan reads the letter out loud. Their pension covers about 60% of what they used to earn. 60%. And that's before medical costs. Before her husband's knee. Before whatever comes next that they can't even predict yet. At this stage of life, money stops being about growth and starts being about endurance. The question isn't, how do I earn more anymore? It's, how do I make what I have outlast me? And underneath that question is the fear I mentioned earlier. The one that has nothing to do with running out of money at all. It's the fear of becoming a burden to the very children they spent decades protecting. Their daughter, May, stops by with groceries. "Brought extra. Don't worry about paying me back, Ma," she says. Mrs. Tan tells her, gently but firmly, "We're not there yet." May says she knows, she just wants to help, and Mrs. Tan softens. "I spent 40 years making sure you never had to worry about us," she says. "I'm not ready to let go of that yet." This is the part that surprises people the most. This tug of war has almost nothing to do with the groceries. It's about identity, who takes care of whom, and what it means when those roles start, slowly and irreversibly, to reverse. A financial planner named Marcus lays it out for the Tans as plainly as he can. "Let's look at the honest version of your numbers, not the scary one," he says. "Pension plus savings plus the value of this house. You're not in crisis. But everything from here needs to be intentional. That's a very different place than being in trouble." Mr. Tan admits it doesn't feel different. It feels like watching a number shrink every year and hoping he dies before it hits zero. There's a long silence. Mrs. Tan just reaches over and takes his hand. Marcus tells them something that changes the whole conversation. Almost everyone their age carries that exact fear. Even people with far more saved than they have. So instead of treating it as one giant, unmanageable dread, he splits it into 3 specific pieces. Healthcare, the biggest unknown, so plan for it directly instead of vaguely. Housing, stay, downsize, or convert some of the home's value into income. And the piece nearly everyone skips. What do they actually want these years to look like? The plan should serve the life, not the other way around. Here's the turning point that catches almost every family off guard. The house someone raised their kids in is usually their single biggest financial asset. And also the hardest thing on earth to let go of because it was never just equity. It's 40 years of memory sitting inside 4 walls. That night, alone, Mrs. Tan wonders aloud what it would feel like to sell the place, move somewhere smaller. "I raised May in this kitchen," Mr. Tan says quietly. "I nursed her in that room right there," Mrs. Tan answers. They both glance down the hallway. Then she says the sentence that changes everything. "I'd rather have 10 easier years somewhere smaller than watch us both struggle holding on to something too big for us now." There is no single right answer here. Some families keep the house, some let it go. Some find a middle path. What actually matters isn't which choice gets made. It's making it with clear eyes together, instead of avoiding it until circumstances make the choice for you, at a much worse moment. Weeks later, May joins one of these conversations, with Marcus on a call. "I want to be part of this," she tells her parents. "Not to take over, just so nobody's carrying it alone." Marcus tells her that's one of the healthiest things he sees in his entire job. Families talking about money before there's an emergency, instead of during one. Mrs. Tan tells May they're thinking of downsizing, maybe somewhere closer to her. May, a little teary, smiles. "Closer to me sounds really good. Here's what it comes down to. Feeling secure later in life was never really about the size of a pension. It's about having a plan specific enough to remove the fear, and a family honest enough to face it together, not out of pity, but out of partnership." Why these 3 stories are actually one story Maya in her tiny apartment. David and Rena at their kitchen table. Mr. and Mrs. Tan figuring out what's next. None of them needed to become finance experts. They needed exactly 3 things, and they're the same 3 things every single time. Get clear on what you actually have. Get honest about what it means to you emotionally. And talk about it before the silence turns into a crisis. We tend to talk about money like it's pure math, interest rates, percentages, spreadsheets. It is that, but underneath every one of these stories was something far more human. A young woman learning to say no to a trip so she could say yes to her own stability. A couple discovering that their fight about golf clubs was actually about safety and joy, and that both could be true at once. And 2 parents, near the end of their working lives, learning that asking for help was never the failure they always feared it would be. It's what family is actually for. If there's one thing every stage of life shares, it's this: money keeps asking you the same question, wearing a different disguise each time. What do you actually value? And do your choices match that? You don't need all the answers today. None of the people in these stories did, not at first. What they had, what any of us can have, is the willingness to look directly at the numbers and directly at each other instead of looking away. Tomorrow, before you've said good morning to anyone, you'll make another dozen decisions about money. That part was never going to change. The only real question is whether you make those choices on purpose or let them happen to you.